We're going to be talking about work and welfare today and practical proverbs for the older student, lesson 60. There are two types of poor people, and it's really important as Christians that we differentiate between those two types because our attitudes and our actions should be different for these two types of poor people. But let's first establish God says many times throughout Proverbs, and you'll be looking at several Proverbs verses today, where God says that we are to give to the poor. We're to take care of the poor. We are not to oppress the poor. We are to give what we have to them and help them out. Okay, so the two types of poor people. There are the poor who are poor because they choose to be and are lazy and don't do anything to change their circumstances. And there are those who work really hard to bring in $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 a year, maybe $20,000 a year, and it's not enough in our economy to even meet their basic needs. Now, sometimes they're poor because they've made bad choices buying big cars and houses and all these kinds of things. Then they find themselves unable to meet those things, the bills that they have. But there are some who work hard, they've trained, maybe they have student loans, they're young, they're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and just not bringing in enough. So which one of these is God talking about? I believe, first of all, both. If he asks us to give, we are to give. We are to be obedient. What God does with that, what the person does with that is between them and God. But be careful of a judgmental attitude when dealing with the poor. It's really easy to get cynical about the poor people. Be discerning about that as well. There are people on the street corners asking for money that probably live in a nicer house and make more money than your parents do. It'll be a group of them, and they'll take turns going to the different corners collecting money, and that's how they're making their living. But there's others on the corners who really need help, families, immigrants, you find war veterans. And the best thing to do is talk to them, go with them to pay a bill, go with them to buy some groceries, go with them. It takes a commitment, an effort in your life, not just throwing money at them. God would have us connect to people. And even by that, you might buy them a meal and tell them about the love of Jesus Christ. And so if someone is on welfare, getting some government help, and they are dependent upon that help, and they are not doing anything to better themselves, getting job skills or doing what they can to do better. Now, an older person may not have those opportunities, but I'm talking about young people who could get a job doing something. The best thing you can do for them is to walk alongside them and begin to give them skills, teach them things that they can do to earn money. A second kind of people that are on welfare are usually on it for a short period of time while they're climbing the ladder of whatever career they have. I have a son he's 26, but at 25, he had 5 children. And they married at 19. They had 5 children. He works hard. He puts in 60, 70-hour days. He drives Uber at night or to deliver food at night. And he works. He has his bachelor's degree. He's a computer engineer, a computer tech guy. But he only brings in enough to meet their very basic needs. And they're living in about 1,000 square foot home with 7 of them. But they're doing it, and they're doing it with contentment. They're doing it with joy, but they are getting some food stamps and WIC. He works hard, he's being recognized, and he's climbing that ladder, so he should soon be to a point where they'll be able to get off of all of that. In the meantime, she's at home with 5 small children and sells things on the side. So they're trying. And so there's people that you want to come alongside and give them skills. Others, I don't mind reaching out and helping because they're doing everything they possibly can. I think God shows us that. He also talks about getting money by fraud and why this is wrong as we look at it today. A final encouragement, God says in Proverbs 13:22, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. God will take care of his own. It may not be that we're going to be the richest in the world, although we are. If you live in America and you have a nice home and cars and a laptop, you're already one of the top 95 or I guess 5% of the richest people in the world. So we need to really recognize that, trust in God to provide, but we also are to do our part and work and be diligent and stay with it and live a life of the greatest riches, which is storing up our riches in heaven, coming alongside people, telling people about Jesus Christ, being obedient to God, following through when he asks us to do something. Those are the things that are going to last forever. I hope that you'll begin to let go of some of your desires and realize all that God has given you and have a grateful and content heart right where you're at. And that's the purpose of learning about the money and some of these things. Our next lessons are going to start off with wise words. We're going to start studying some of the words of our mouths and where that motivation comes from and what we need to do.